Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
This summer, Instacart is bringing back your favorites from 1999 with prices from 1999. That means 90s prices on juice pouches that ought to be respected, 90s prices on box mac and cheese, and 90s prices on ham, cheese, and cracker lunches. Enjoy all those throwbacks and more at Throwback prices, only through Instacart. $4.72 maximum discount per $10 of eligible items. Limit one offer per order. Expires September 5th while supplies last. Discount based on CPI comparison.
Hello and welcome to Just Films and That, a podcast where we're going to discuss a film that we feel may be underrated, underappreciated, or we just wanted to talk about it. I'm Josh Hallam, and I'm here as always with Alice Oliver. Alice, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Josh. And yourself?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Well, we're joined by another fantastic guest today. He's a DJ. He's interviewed us. Now we're interviewing him. Jermaine Foster, how are you, mate?
Very well, man. Thank you very much, Josh. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We were just talking before we started recording then, and I believe this is your first podcast?
It's my first one where I'm on this side, yeah.
As a
I've
guest.
been on before as like a host or something, yeah, but it's the first time being a guest, so I'm excited.
That's cool. Well, we'll hope it's a good experience.
I'll
ease you into it.
Take over.
No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Well, we start with a random question as we do every week. So I'll come to you first, Alice. Alice, what was your favourite TV show as a kid? Kid, I mean, not like, 15 or whatever.
So there's two that really spring to mind. So Rugrats and The Animals of Farthing Wood. But I reckon I have got great taste.
You always have, haven't you?
If I had to pick one though, I would go with Farthing Wood because I remember on more than one occasion it made me cry. And I've always
That's what you're looking for? That's what you're looking for in a kids' TV show, isn't it?
Well, I just think it's really says
so
something.
With you.
Oh yeah,
Animals of Farthing Wood was the Game of Thrones of my childhood.
Oh my God, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. The hedgehogs died.
An animal died every episode.
Do you remember, Jermaine? Do you remember Bold, who was one of the fox cubs? When he died, that was traumatizing. I think a couple of the fox cubs died, actually.
Was he the one that left the family? And then,
he saw.
And then
oh my God,
back?
He did like a Prince Harry. He sort of absconded, didn't he?
Found a wife and stuff.
Oh yeah! Oh my God, I have got to go back and watch this.
There was one episode of that where I think it was the Kestrels, and the wife got killed by the farmer, and the husband found her because he saw her cooking on the windowsill. It was just his wife, like his fried wife or his roasted wife was just on the windowsill.
It was so dark, but there were so many.
It was brilliant.
I feel like describing it like the Game of Thrones of like animals as well. That is a brilliant way to describe it. But there were so many moments like this, and obviously, it had a really powerful message behind it about like the environment and stuff. Because the reason that the animals were sort of migrating, I suppose, from their home in Farthing Wood to White Deer Park was because it was getting all filled in to become like shops and roads and stuff. And so it was all about their journey to White Deer Park. Yeah. But so emotional, so much animal death, and like you had a brilliant villain in the Blue Foxes, and then it was like the Blue Foxes against the Red Foxes, like the Starks and the Lannisters, and all kind of things like that.
Was.
Yeah,
I mean, they even made a pact amongst themselves that the animals of Farthing Wood wouldn't eat each other.
They did, didn't they?
Because they had the fox was the leader, and they had all these little animals, and they would easily the snake. It was like the snake that wanted to eat them all, but didn't. Brilliant! Oh, amazing
Yeah, because
show.
they thought the rabbits who thought that Fox had eaten one of them, but it turned out it wasn't him, and it was actually Lady Blue, who was the blue fox, because someone was like going round. Someone was going around spreading rumors. They were like, we saw Fox eat the rabbit, and everyone was like, Fox, you ate my wife, how dare you? And then it turned out, no, he didn't do it. And then the rabbit was all like, I'm so sorry, Fox, I should never have questioned your leadership. Brilliant.
Fox sends Snake, the adder, the snake, to do a hit on the blue fox. Like, Fox actually sends Snake to kill him.
She didn't just do that off her own back, did she?
No,
and she did it while he went for a drink in the river, didn't he? And he put his little paws in the river, and she comes along. And even that was really traumatic, even though he was like the villain. But as he was dying, and because they had their own children, and it was their female cub that got with Bold, the red fox, wasn't it?
Son.
Oh, wow. Anyway, so we could do a whole episode on that, couldn't we?
Let's do a separate episode of
Anyway, sorry, Josh. What's yours?
Well, if you've been affected by any of the issues discussed in this episode, then please.
I just forgot how good it was.
Mine, I don't think I watched that. I've heard of it, but mine was, I think it was just.
You've never seen it?
Don't think so, but I don't know. You two seem to have a photographic memory from a TV show from 30 years ago.
Because it was traumatizing.
I think mine was just Thomas the Tank Engine. Which also is also pretty dark, because I think there's an episode of that where one of the trains is naughty and they wall him up in a tunnel.
Yeah, Henry the Green Engine, naughty.
But they seem to live forever, so there's just this tortured train living in living hell with its eyes poking out of a tunnel.
Did he ever get out?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably still there.
Still there now.
No, National Rail are crap.
Poor thing.
But what about you, Jermaine? This is going dark. Are you gonna?
You know what? Funnily enough, I was actually going to say Animals of Farthing Wood as one of mine. I was going to say that. But when I was a kid, I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan. Like crazy huge. Yeah. Like every single thing I owned had a Ninja Turtle on there in some way or some form. Everything was Ninja Turtles. So
that's great. Ninja Turtles are great.
I think I'll go with that. Ninja Turtles or Animals of Farthing Wood.
Oh, there we go.
Very different shows there, aren't you? Because the Turtles, it was quite cool, wasn't it? And they were like these sort of, teenager kind of type.
Sort of thing,
just kind of cocky and stuff. And then obviously the really sort of traumatizing emotional journey of the Animals of Farthing Wood. So you're getting everything you need in both those shows, really.
Who's the best Turtles, man?
Well, I've gone through phases, Josh. I've gone through phases as I've matured in life. So when I was a young man, I was all about Michelangelo because he's the fun one,
Yeah.
But then as you get older, you realise that it's all about Raphael.
Absolutely.
That's what you know. As you get older, you realise that. So
I think once you get even older, it becomes Donatello and then Splinter.
Maybe. Ask me when I'm 80 and I'm all about Splinter.
Yeah. I want to be the giant rat who's in charge of it all. That's what I want to be. So we'll move on to talking about this week's film, which Jermaine has picked, which is Just Friends from 2005. So Jermaine, what's it about and why did you pick it?
Just Friends is... I just love this film, if I'm honest. I just love it. I just love it. Love it. It was a difficult decision because I love films so much and I had so many films I could have chose, but I went with this one. It's basically about it stars Ryan Reynolds. When Ryan Reynolds was a younger man, he was very unconfident, he was overweight, and he was in love with his best friend. And he ended up in what we now know as the friend zone, but back then that term wasn't really a thing. So he basically was in love with his friend and didn't do anything about it and was just her best friend, and that was it. He gets really embarrassed as a kid when he decides to share his feelings with her, leaves the town he was born in because he's so embarrassed, and then comes back, I think like 10 years later, and he's the Ryan Reynolds that we know now, all good looking and Ryan Reynoldsy, and sets out on a mission to get her back. Like, all right, now I'm fit Ryan Reynolds, I can win her over. But then he realizes that he might look completely different, but he's still this geeky little kid, and it's just hilarious. I just find it so funny.
So did you pick this one from a point of view of you just want to talk about it? Or do you think it's underrated or underseen or anything like that?
I think it might be underseen. I think it's underrated, but I think it's one of those films actually where people have seen it, forgot they've seen it, and then when you see it again, like, oh, I have actually seen this film.
Yeah.
Because there's a few moments in it that will kind of stick in your head. But I do think it is kind of underrated, and I do think it's aged not so badly. A lot of stuff from that era now, because of the language we use and stuff, they haven't aged well. Whereas this one, I think they probably call each other gay a couple of times, but apart from that, it's not, overly on PC, if you know what I mean.
No, I'd agree with that. Because I don't think I'd seen this, but I remember it coming out because I remember the whole friend zone thing becoming a term that everybody used. Yeah, I probably did go in thinking, this will have aged as badly as, like we did a couple of months ago. What did we do, Alice? We did 40 Days and 40 Nights, and that was like every character in it.
40 Days and 40 Nights.
Josh Hartnett can't have sex
when he
for
gives
Lent.
sex for Lent.
And it's just
it's
every
bad.
Every character in it is
doesn't
sex
the
obsessed.
woman rape him at the end?
Yeah.
That is how it ends.
Horrendous.
Hilarious
There's no
stuff.
repercussions. She never, she never gets her comeuppance. It's played off as a joke.
Hilarious stuff.
Wow.
Male rape. Yeah, you love a bit of that. So I did go in expecting it to have aged poorly, but I hadn't seen it, and I think I was quite pleasantly surprised. What about you, Alice? Had you seen this one before?
I hadn't seen it, but I thought I had, because I thought it was. I think I got it confused with like No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits and that sort of thing. And then when it started, the image of Ryan Reynolds in a fat suit felt really familiar. So I was like, oh, have I seen this? But I don't think I had, or if I did, I've completely forgotten about it. Like you said, Jermaine, it might have been one of those things where I'd seen it and kind of just not really paid attention. But no, didn't see it. But you can sort of get the gist of what it's all going to be about very early on in the film, because Ryan Reynolds is in a fat suit. So okay, well, eventually he's not going to be in a fat suit. Like, they've hired one of the most handsome actors in Hollywood to do this for a reason. So you can kind of get where it's going to go quite early on, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's not that, it is there to be a funny sort of heartwarming rom-com, isn't it? It's not trying to change the world or anything. So having watched it, Alice, what do you think? What do you like about it?
So I think the things that I liked most about it were Samantha and Dusty, the characters. So Samantha, played by Anna Faris, I thought she was the funniest part of it for me. Not only because it's a great kind of depiction of the ridiculousness of celebrity. And I think like the first moment that you're introduced to her, she's doing this advert where she's like, we're helping third world countries and all this. And it's just like, ugh. And it's just so reminiscent of, celebrities that will kind of go and do that. Just that sort of vapid, hollow, like, do-gooder sort of thing. And she had just a lot of really great moments. There was one moment where they're in the shopping mall with Chris, who's played by Ryan Reynolds. So she's in a shopping mall with his brother, and he accidentally tasers her with her own taser. She falls off the balcony, obviously injures herself, and then she has a bit of a concussion or whatever, and I think that she's on like some heavy medication for the pain. And she sat in Ryan Reynolds' room squirting tubes of toothpaste into her mouth. Yeah. And I was like, that's disgusting. Like, it pretty much made me gag, but I thought it was so, so funny. And I think Anna Faris is really, really good. And I think she's like putting a lot of effort and a lot of energy into that character to make her just like really absurd and just so over the top. So I really liked her. And then Dusty's character I thought was great, because I feel like I haven't seen Chris Klein in that much. No. So you get him in... So he's in American Pie, isn't he? In the first two, and then I don't know if he's in the other ones. So he starts off, he's very similar to Ryan Reynolds' character, like he's very self-conscious, he's got loads of acne, like he doesn't feel super confident with the women, but he also fancies Jamie, who is Ryan Reynolds' love interest. And then he has this brilliant glow-up where he then becomes, the Chris Klein that everybody's used to. And the way they introduce his character I thought was brilliant. So they're at the ice skating rink.
That is my favourite scene.
It's so brilliant, isn't it? So she falls down. So it's a Christmas film, we should probably mention.
Yeah, I was
so
expecting
it's all
that.
set
I was
kind
not
of
expecting
in
that.
and around Christmas in New Jersey. So there's tons of snow and ice. So they're at this ice skating rink, and Jamie sort of falls down like this little kind of hill or like this little mound. And then she comes back over the top being carried by Dusty, by Chris Klein's character, in like a proper Baywatch style, like swept back hair. He's wearing a paramedic's outfit and he's just like, oh, here he is, your movie star boyfriend or whatever. And I just thought that was a great introduction. Then obviously he's like playing, you know, the nice guy and stuff. And then he turns out to be a massive douchebag anyway. So those two characters for me really stood out. And I think they were my favorite things about the film.
Yeah, I love those two.
Anna Faris is one of the most underrated actors working today, I think.
Definitely.
I'd watch her do anything. She's just so funny, and like you say, she's always completely believable, and she does that the wide-eyed sort of, you know, innocence that she does in like the scary movies, but then she also does this sort of thing really well as well, like she does in Just Friends, and she really dials it up to 11 for that character. And she was the highlight for me, I thought. But I thought all the performances were pretty good. Like I thought that obviously Anna Faris is good. I thought that Ryan Reynolds is, because you don't get many rom-coms where there's more than one person who is like the foil, who is always falling over and getting hurt and stuff. And this isn't afraid to do that. You know, it's not afraid to be like, you know, Ryan Reynolds is, you know, he gets hurt all the way through the film. The scene where they play hockey on the lake or whatever it is, it's just hilarious. Like, and
his whole meltdown in that scene for me, like when he's, because it's like a really traumatizing experience for him, because he knows he's a really good hockey player, and the kid's really taunting like, a real hockey can play anything, because he has to have these really terrible renter skis or renter shoes, and it's just that moment of, I've had enough of this, I'm not having these kids tease me anymore, I'm going to show you how good I am, and he just goes mental, starts slapping the kids in the head, and it's just amazing. I love it.
Great. It's great. And then when he's in the ambulance and the thing falls on him, and it's such an old joke, man gets hit in the bollocks with something, but it stands the test of time, just like a man getting hit in the bollocks with a gas canister or whatever it is.
The second fall when they let go of the stretcher that he's kind of tied into, and he slides down this slide that suddenly has just appeared, and it falls face first into the ice, and I just love that. They turn it over and his whole mouth and face is just dismantled.
No, I like that there was lots of physical slapstick comedy in, but like you say, there was satirical stuff with Anna Faris's character, the sort of, like you say, Alice, the over-sexualization of a pop star, or the fact that they're always involved in an issue that they want to put their name to. And then I thought there was some good sort of gags in it as well, some interesting gags. Like I liked the ongoing battle between him and his brother. Really enjoyed that. Then
they say "I love you" at the end, though, so it's kind of like you sort of forgive everything that's happened before, and then at the end they're just like, they sort of whisper to each other like, "I love you," and he's like, "I love you too." I thought that was really cute.
And like you said,
it is very physical, though, isn't it? Like it's like you said, it's very slapstick, and there's a lot of very gross out comedy as well. Like when the brothers are fighting, like he goes to spit on him, and obviously you've got it when his teeth get like caved in and there's blood everywhere, and then Anna Faris with the toothpaste, because then she sort of spits it all up on Ryan Reynolds' face. It's so gross. Jermaine, is that what you do? You like that sort of thing? Like, do you like that kind of physical comedy, the sort of grossness of it?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know, actually. I'm not too sure. I mean, I liked the comedies of that era, like that kind of time frame of, was it like early 2000s?
2005,
yeah, there's like a lot of comedies coming out at that time, and I just found them really funny. But this particular one has always stuck with me, because something about it and mainly probably because I think as guys, we've probably been in that situation. I know I definitely have.
Yeah.
Where, especially when I was in school and younger, where, you know, you were friends with a girl and you really liked her, but you just couldn't do anything about it because you were a friend. And I just love that film. I just think it's so brilliant.
So it's obviously got a lot of nostalgia for you as well, hasn't it? Because it's 15, it's 16 years old or whatever. But yeah, and I also was quite surprised. I know we've already touched on this. I thought it would have aged a lot worse than it has, but I don't think it has. There's a few things, like you say. There's a bit of sort of like what you'd say is we've touched on before, is like gay panic. You know, you're gay and all this, which is obviously it's not okay, but it's a lot better than, for example, 40 Days and 40 Nights or American Pie or the sort of comedies that were from around the time. And I quite liked as well. I thought that it had a lot of heart to it. I thought there was some quite interesting messages about. I know it sounds cheesy, but like not changing yourself. You know, he goes away and comes back to be what he thinks she wants him to be, and actually, what she wants him to be is what he was, which is more sweet and kind, and not essentially a bit of a dick. And I quite like that as it goes on, he mellows. It starts off and he is that sort of sex obsessed, womanizing character, and then as it goes on, he does. I don't know. I suppose he's humbled by going back to where he's from, isn't he? And what I liked about it is, and again, I know we've already sort of touched on this, is that a lot of protagonists at the time are like he is at the beginning, but they don't change. Whereas this highlights that idea of being sex obsessed and a womanizer and materialistic and treating women as objects. Except it addresses that as a bad thing, which a lot of them don't, and I quite like that. I think that's why it's not aged as badly as other ones, is that they take the sort of trope of the time and go, yeah, but it's a bad thing, and highlight that, and I think that's really interesting. I don't know, what do you think, Alice?
Yeah, like the film doesn't lead you to sympathize with Chris, so Ryan Reynolds' character, and Dusty, who are both a lot of the time being like douchebags basically, and they're sort of putting all the onus on the women. It's like, oh, it's her fault that she's not attracted to me or whatever, but it doesn't paint that as a good thing. And Jamie's character is meant to be, or she come across to me as very likable. Like she is just like quite a nice person. Like she's quite humble. She's a teacher in training and she works the bar just to kind of make extra cash and stuff. And she just feels very genuine through the whole thing. But they do poke fun at Ryan Reynolds and at Chris Klein, and there, I guess it is kind of like a depiction of toxic masculinity, because they are quite toxic, and a lot of the time they aren't being very nice. And some of the things that Ryan Reynolds says like are really derogatory to women, and like, how you've got to play them, and it's like, oh, you can only date them at night because you need to have sex with them and all this stuff. But it's like they are punished for that. And it's almost as if that's where the physical comedy comes in. It's like, it's a good way to punish those guys. It's like, well, okay, you can talk to women like that, but I'm going to kick your teeth in, and now your veneers are ruined. Ha!
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that too. Like the whole thing of that saying, oh, you got to go on nighttime dates, you can't go on day dates. But then, I love the fact that he set all these rules that he's adamant you have to follow. But then when he ends up going home and meeting Jamie, he ends up breaking all of his rules because he actually likes her. So I like the fact that, like you were saying with the heart there, I think because it's Ryan Reynolds and he's this attractive guy, this funny guy, I think the film could have gone a certain way where they could have carried on that and really played on that womanizing side and the funny side. But the fact that after all of that, and when he has his moment to actually get with her, he suddenly realized, he suddenly starts to think, okay, well, what's going to happen, tomorrow? And then he suddenly realizes, well, I actually don't just want to sleep with this girl. I actually really love this girl, and I see myself in the future with her, so I can't do anything. And the conversation he has with his friend, where he actually even says himself, like, I can't do this because, I'm a friend. And then he knows, like, we are just friends,
Yeah, it's nice that it's an experience. It's about being humbled, isn't it? He goes away and builds himself this flash life in LA where he's got, all the best clothes and he's got this great job, and then he comes back to his hometown, and what I noticed about it is that he is the only one who seems to have left. Yeah. So when he comes back, everyone is still there. The guy who's the bully at high school is now, not a bully because he's bald and he's drunk and he's fat and all that sort of thing. An alcoholic, yeah. His friends have got married. He's clearly not a very good friend to them too, by the way, because he comes back and like, we got married, got a kid, and he's like, oh, it's like it's supposed to be his best friends. But anyway, and like, I guess, and we've mentioned this in other episodes, haven't we, Alice, is that it's almost a film about being happy with what you've got. And I like that. I think we touched on it with Happy Go Lucky, didn't we, Alice? But I like that. I think that's one of the appeals about if you think about sitcoms like Gavin and Stacey, it's just a sitcom about people living their lives. Yeah. And just being happy with what they've got and just sort of tootling along. And I really like that because I think it's nice to see that because it's very relatable, I suppose.
Yeah. I love the fact of, because me, myself as well, moving here to Liverpool from Birmingham, you have that whole, you move away from home and you do change and you kind of grow and develop and adapt. But then when you go home, I totally feel that same way as him. When you go home, you feel like you've grown, but then your friends and family and stuff just bring you right back to to who you were before. You, as much as advanced or as developed as you think you are and as grown as you think you might be, once you go home and around the people that know you and grew up with you, you end up just falling back into the role that you had before. And, I love that. Like he said, when he got home, he rented this Porsche and he wanted to be this really cool, slick dude. But by the end of it, he's got a retainer in his mouth and he's wearing Christmas jumpers and he's riding a bike around to her house. And, it's all just fallen away and he's back to what he was.
Yeah, all the airs and graces have gone away and he's just back to that sort of... It's like you say, I'm the same. When you go home, even if you go from a city to wherever you're from, even if it's another city, you still sit in your mum and dad's house and they'll be like, right, you're making a brew then?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm back, It's not like nothing changes. You just go back into that familiar role, don't you?
It's like, Mom, I don't make the teas anymore. The teas get made for me these days.
I have a runner to do that.
Yeah, get me cappuccino. Get me cappuccino. Come on. What do you mean it's tea in a tea bag? Haven't you got a strainer?
Amateurs.
Yeah, one of them.
Something else I really liked about it was that some of the moments were just, like, it really does border on the absurd. Like, some of the scenarios that the characters find them in are just absolutely bonkers and sort of like they're almost, like it almost becomes, I guess some of the comedy just becomes absurd in some of the scenarios. But one bit that really stood out in my head, because I just thought it was so funny, was it's just before they go ice skating and Ryan Reynolds' character goes to his mum's garage and he's looking through all the boxes and he's like, Mum, where's my ice skates? And she's like, well, I threw them out. Why would I keep them? But he's looking amongst boxes and boxes of all his old stuff. There's like baseball gloves. There's like all this sports paraphernalia. And in his bedroom, in his old bedroom, is this mural or this shrine that he has to Jamie with all the pictures on there, like the letters he's written to her, and literally everything else is exactly the same. But it's like, oh no, but the ice skates had to go. And there's just a few moments like that. The mum, I think, is really funny. And his sort of she's like a bit... It's almost she's like a bit at a loose end, isn't she? Because he never visits. Like, he hasn't been there in the 10 years that he's moved out. And his parents have divorced now, so his dad's not really in the picture. So she's in quite... And at one point, she's hoovering the wooden floor. I thought that was funny.
What appears to be like 9 o'clock at night. She seems to be hoovering at like the middle of the night. But I love that.
They come round.
When she picks up the phone, when he's on the phone. And I just remember that as a kid. It was the same thing. Like, she picks up the... Joyce. She's like, what are you doing? Chris, what are you doing at Joyce's house? I'm not at Joyce's house, Mom. I'm upstairs. I'm on the phone.
It's always the same as well in films, isn't it? They go back to their mum and dad's house and their bedroom hasn't changed. I mean, I don't know about you, but your bedrooms at your parents' house is still the same.
Mine is exactly the same. And
is it really?
I've told my mom, please change this room because people are going to think I've died. It's exactly the same. It's so strange when I go home. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. What about you, Alice? Is it still the same?
No,
pictures of Keanu Reeves on the wall.
No, not anymore, sadly. I brought all those with me. No, my parents have moved twice since I moved out. So there's nothing the same. But you'd barely even know I lived there.
I know. Do you still have an allocated space at least?
Well, they'll pull out the sofa bed in my dad's man cave.
Yeah, same.
If I ever go over to stay, so I'm just like crushed on this tiny little bed. But that'll do. But I still get a coffee brought to me in the morning. So.
That's our setup as well. We're on a sofa bed in the office.
Yeah.
Oh no! My mum clearly loves me still. Then
I know. Yeah. Our parents cannot stand us.
Yeah. Don't want you to come back. There won't even be a sofa bed next time. It's like, oh, you're coming over again.
My dad kicked off the other week because he found out I had a key for the house. I was like going to get some golf clubs or something, and he was like, "Oh, do you need a key?" I was like, "No, I've got a key. Why have you got a key?" I was like, "Because I lived here for 18 years."
Golf clubs?
Yeah.
La-di-da.
What can I say? I'm a man of leisure in that I played golf once for a stag do a few weeks ago. So we'll move on to talking about anything that we perhaps might change about the film or that we didn't like. I'll come to you first, Jermaine. Is there anything, or for you, is it just all nostalgia, great comedy?
Do you know what? I've watched it and loved it for so long. I can't think of anything, but maybe if you say something, I might agree. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. Maybe it could have been longer.
Yeah, fair. And it's not often we get that. That feedback from film. What was the film we did? It was like could have been longer. Oh, Popstar.
I said that about never stopping. I want hours and hours of that
TV show of it.
Gosh, so funny that.
What about you, Alice? Is there anything you'd change?
Like you've already touched on, so a lot of quite homophobic language and the idea that being gay is bad and the idea that if you don't immediately have sex with a woman, then you must be gay. Yeah. They use the word retard, I think, a few times, and obviously the word fag. So that's not really great. So I didn't find it, I don't think I found it as funny as they were intending it to be. And obviously the idea of that being fat is somehow bad. And, it's like, Ryan Reynolds' worth didn't really shine through until he lost weight and became really, really handsome. And the same with Dusty as well, like he's this awkward musician type who's got acne, and it's like, you're meant to be like, oh, hideous. But then he has his glow up and he's like, oh, good. He's, you have value now because you're handsome. So there was some of that, but I feel like because it's so over the top, and sort of so absurd in places, it is almost self-effacing, and it is as though it is taking the piss out of those things within itself. So it doesn't feel as offensive as some of the earlier films, like if you're looking at sort of the late 90s and the really early 2000s, like American Pie. So, I don't know, I just wasn't sure how to absorb all of it, I think.
No, I would agree with that. I think time has been kinder to it than it has been to other films like American Pie, but there is an element, there's a tongue-in-cheek element where it's almost sending itself up, like you say, so it's not as sort of, it's not as cruel. There is other films which we've mentioned before where it's like they do laugh at, disability, or they laugh at like you say gay, they use gay as a derogatory term and stuff like that, but it's nowhere near as bad as some of the others.
And I think even with the characters as well, and not to be this, I love this film so much, so I will defend it to the death. But like with Dusty and Ryan Reynolds' younger character, like they've not really given you much reason to feel sympathy for them. Like Dusty kind of comes into Jamie's room to play this song that he just completely fumbles, and you just feel awkward for it. You're just like, mate, leave. Yeah. Just leave. And then Ryan Reynolds is just this goofy sidekick who's wearing a best friends forever t-shirt. And you're just like,
forever.
Yeah, it's like it's like the whole party, nobody's like teasing him because, you're a fat loser. It's like, we're teasing you, mate, because you're in love with this guy and you're wearing a best friends forever t-shirt. And it's just embarrassing. So a bit of a defense, Alice. They're not teasing.
Yeah, and I totally accept that. I think you're right. And but a lot of the times as well, they're not painted as the most likable characters. No. And I feel like, and when you look at like Anna Faris's character, like she's such a caricature, and it is so over the top, and it is so satirical that you do think, it is almost more of a satirical take on those sort of things and on those kinds of stories. But yeah, you're right. Like at the party at the beginning, like they are taking the piss out of him because he's acting just really bizarrely and really obsessively. And then he writes like those pages and pages of like why I love Jamie and why Jamie is the best. And then they start reading them. It's so funny because they start reading them on the top of the stairs, and like everyone in the party has stopped to listen to this, and they're all laughing in unison, just like your kind of worst nightmare at high school.
There is one more scene, actually, because Ali's talking about over-the-top scenes. The whole scene when Anna Faris finds out and comes to expose Ryan Reynolds and just turns up at the house and completely demolishes the Christmas decorations. I love that.
Oh, for me, she was the highlight, Anna Faris.
Yeah, I love that whole scene because it's just this... Up to that point, the film is kind of going the same way, and then there's just this scene of total chaos that just comes out of nowhere, and then even like the music they've got playing in the background is just kind of like a scene out of another film that they've slotted into this film, and then the reindeer gets dragged down the street and drives away.
Yeah, it's quite a nice action sequence in amongst the sort of comedy, the romantic comedy element of it all. Yeah. There was quite a bit of that, I thought, like with the sort of physical comedy and stuff. But yeah, that bit was, because, I mean, just great to see that many Christmas decorations in a Christmas film anyway. And it was sort of quite nice and colourful and festive. And then to just see it all get destroyed, it's like almost satisfying in like quite a dark way.
So we'll move on to talk about the critical reception then. So before I tell you how it did, how do you think it sort of did critically, Jermaine?
I'd say because of the time it came out, there's nothing unique about that film compared to other films that came out around that era. So it'll probably scrape by. Like we said, the actors didn't do a bad job. They were all pretty funny. Anna Faris, I think this is one of her better films. Ryan Reynolds, this is one of his better films of that era.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think it will get a passable rating.
Okay. Alice, what about you?
Probably, I would say you're probably looking within the 6s somewhere. Like if I was going to mark it, I'd probably give it like quite a low 6. I think Jermaine,
out of 10,
explained it quite. No, out of 100.
Out of 100.
It is out of 10. It's out of 10.
I think you explained it quite well though. Like it isn't really doing anything unique. Obviously, it's a bit harder now because it come out in 2005, and sort of thinking about it in terms of it being 16 years old and everything that I've seen since then. But yeah, it didn't feel unique. It didn't feel fresh. It was just kind of an interesting take on that genre, I think. But with some great actors giving some great performances. And I thought they all had really good chemistry on screen as well. All of them, like Ryan and his brother and the mum and Jamie, even the couple whose name escapes me, but his old mates from school who get married, like they're really cute and endearing.
Your names are Clark and Darla?
Yeah, because she loves that for some reason. But yeah, I think if I was going to mark it, like a low 6, I reckon.
Okay, well, let's find out then.
Yeah, I think I'd say the same. 6.4.
6.4. Well,
to be precise.
Do you know what?
We love precision.
That's pretty accurate, because on IMDb at the time of recording, it gets 6.2 out of 10.
Ooh,
so you're close. And on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience give it 71%.
Wow.
And the critics give it 42%.
Oh, hold on to your hats.
42%.
42.
So, look, I mean, I think that Rotten Tomatoes score tells you everything you need to know. It's not a film that's made for the critics. It's not,
No, definitely not.
And that's nearly 30% gap there between critics and audience. So for me, I'd say the critics are being quite harsh. And I did look through some of the reviews, and I couldn't find anything they didn't like. It was just like, I just didn't think it was funny, or it was just too by the numbers, you know what I mean? But I think for me, I think it's it's a decent comedy that's a cut above the others that were released around the time, because it's a bit more self-aware. I think all the cast are really good, and I think it is a tried and tested formula, but it's tried and tested for a reason. People like to see this sort of film because it's just escapist, and it's disposable, and it's easy, and it's funny. So for me, I would say, I'm going to say underrated for that one. What about you, Alice?
I would probably say appropriately rated. I would say that the audience score for me is quite generous. That's quite a generous score. The IMDb one, appropriate. And then like the critics, we know what I think about what the critics have to say, but I don't blame them for this one, because it didn't, I probably wouldn't rewatch it.
So Jermaine, you can have the deciding vote then. Is it underrated?
Oh, totally.
There we go.
Totally. I mean, I get the score. I get those scores. The audience score, I kind of disagree, Alice. I think that the audience score is so high because I think if you watch it with a room of people, I think the whole room will laugh. And everyone in the room will leave that room thinking that was actually a really good film. And collectively, you'll all agree that it was a good film. So if you ask 5 people when they've left the room, did you like that? All 5, I think, would say yeah.
Okay. Strong. That's very strong.
Do you think I like this film?
Yeah.
Josh? Do you think I have a thing for this film?
I think you get right in Just Friends too. A 2021 version.
Yeah.
So, Jermaine, Just quickly, is this quite in keeping with other films that you love? Is this something that is quite typical of what you would watch?
I am a total film fanatic. So there aren't really a type of film that I love. Like I was saying, like to choose a film to speak to you guys about, it was so hard. I mean, how many messages did I send you, Johnson, changing my mind?
Yeah.
I just kept changing my mind because there were so many films that I could have sat here and spoke to you about.
That happens like most of the whenever we get a guest, it's always like, might do this. Oh no, might do this. And it's almost like we keep guests up at night and they're like on their phone going, actually, no, I can't do that. It's ridiculous. What a stupid choice.
Even up till last night, I was thinking, should I change the film? Because there are so many.
Well, if you could do another one, you'll have to come back on and do another one.
Can't me, love to, definitely.
Well, there we go. So another one for the underrated pile. Jermaine, thank you very much for coming on. So where can everyone look out for your stuff?
Well, you can catch me on my evening show. I'm the evening show presenter at BBC Radio Merseyside. I'm on from 7 till 10, Tuesdays till Fridays. And man, catch the show, great music, local chat, and we just have a laugh, really.
Get that on obviously the normal radio, BBC Sounds, all that sort of stuff.
BBC Sounds, 95.8 FM if you're here in Merseyside. Or just Jermaine Foster, BBC Sounds, and you'll catch me there.
Brilliant. And social medias and stuff like that. What do we look out for?
Gem Radio 1 on Twitter, you can catch me. And Joe Fernster on Instagram. I'm like many people who think they are cool enough to have a fake name on Instagram. So, that's my alias is Joe Fernster.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure. And I love this, man. This is great. Thank you.
So there we go. Another fantastic guest episode done. Thank you very much for Jermaine to coming on and for reminiscing with Alice about the animals of Farthing Wood.
The Game of Thrones of the Animal Kingdom.
It's great. I'm gonna have to get if it's all on YouTube. Let's get that watched. We'll do a special. No, I'm not.
You better not be joking.
You do. No, fine. We'll do it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll watch it all anyway, and then if you change your mind, I'll be ready.
Well, if you'd like to get in touch with the podcast in the meantime, if you've got a film you'd like to suggest for us, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com, and we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just Films and That Pod, and the website's justfilmsandthatpod.com. Well, we'll be back next week for another episode. Alice, thanks very much for joining me as ever.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure as always.
And it's goodbye from me. Cheerio.
Bye.
Gene Smart has just returned to Broadway in the hit play, Call Me Izzy. And critics can't stop raving. The New York Times cheers. Gene Smart is an awe-inspiring triumph. Deadline calls it a tour de force performance and a remarkable new play. The audience is dazzled and completely in her hands, says The New Yorker. And the Washington Post adds, Gene Smart is transfixing. Call Me Izzy, the can't-miss Broadway event of the summer, through August 17th only.